Hello, everyone, and welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika. Obviously, I'm your host, Dr. Erika. You knew that, though, didn't you? Today on our show, I am so excited to have Michelle Glogovac. Did I say that correctly, Michelle?
Glogovac, yeah. It
Glogovac.
sounds the way it's spelled.
Okay, perfect. She is the podcast matchmaker who's also a producer, who's also a PR agent, and the host of her own show, My Simplified Life. And today we're going to be talking about, of course, her journey, because that's what we do here. But we're going to talk about all things podcast. So I'm so super excited to jump into this. So Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to chat with you. You're a ray of sunshine. So I know this is going to be fun.
I try to make it fun. Life's too short, right? You got to have fun while you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of fun, it's a random question, and I'm so sorry. It has nothing to do with podcast.
That's okay.
But I saw in your bio that you like giving wine suggestions.
I do. So the whole My Simplified Life came about 6 years ago when I was drinking wine, of course. And I had a girlfriend who's a lifestyle blogger, and she had this big following, and she goes, do you want to start writing wine reviews for me on the blog? And we ended up collaborating together on it because she had the audience, but I had the wine.
Right.
We ended up working with La Crema, and I was creating recipes with their wine. They were sending us wine. We were getting paid for it. And then we both got pregnant within a week of each other. So
I mean, that's a good thing, but
it was good because we wanted it, but we're both like, oh man, now what? So I kept it up, but I'd have to have people over to drink the wine, and I'd sip and spit. And then when we had our kids, they're 2 days apart. And she said, I got to take a pause. And I said, well, then can I just create my own website? And I started with My Simplified Life and was doing wine reviews and incorporating wine with food. So that's how that came about. And yeah, I'm a big wino.
We'll have to get some suggestions from you after the show. I know nothing about wine. I just know it's red and white and rosé.
It's all about what you like.
Okay.
That's what I say. It's not rocket science. Taste it. If you like it, awesome. Doesn't mean anything else.
Nice. Well, that's an interesting segue into kind of how I wanted to start your show, right? Because you talked about My Simplified Life, doing the wine reviews. That is not at all where your career started, though.
No, my career is like a hot mess.
Girl, let me tell you, that's me too. I'm there. Talk to us about how you sort of went from where you were to where you are now.
So when I was 5 years old on career day, I would dress up in a suit with my dad's briefcase because I was going to be an attorney. I was going to be a lawyer. That was it. I decided at 5. And when it came time to apply to colleges, I was set on UC Santa Barbara because they had a bachelor's in law degree. I got in. I got my law degree, and then I needed a part-time job while I was there, and I could walk to the airport. I didn't need a car. So that's how I started in corporate aviation.
Huh. Okay.
And then I graduated, and the corporation goes, well, we'll just give you a salary with benefits. And I went, I will stay because I have all these friends moving back home to live with their parents, and that's not going to be me. So yes, for $40,000 a year, I will stay here in Santa Barbara, and I will work full-time with benefits and just forget going to law school.
Oh, wow.
So that is what I did. And I stayed for 18 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So I moved around the country. I, traveled around the country. I met celebrities. I met big CEOs. It was an amazing journey, and I loved what I did. And then I had kids, and my husband's in aviation too. He still is. Okay. And we were going to the same places at the same time, now bringing 2 little ones who are 1 year and 3 weeks apart, a nanny. It was exhausting. It wasn't fun anymore. You go to a conference and it's like, oh, we've got dinner and this and that. And I'm like, oh no, I need to go to the hotel to feed the babies and change some diapers. And I'm going to bed at 8. So I was laid off in April of 2018. and thought, what is it that I can do where I can be at home with the kids? I'm done having a nanny. I'm done traveling. It's been enough. And I tried to dabble a bit in event planning because I'm very organized type A. So I'd done a lot of networking events and whatnot, but that still took me away nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, well, social media management, because I've got this wine blog that I've had on the side. I know what that takes, but now my head's down in my phone all the time and it's not enjoyable. And then a woman from my birthing class actually added me to a Facebook group of a life coach who was just launching her podcast. And it was all about finding your purpose and your passion. And I was like, yes, I'm going to find it. I don't know what it is, but I am going to find it. And so I would on my own Instagram be, shouting her out of, we all have something, but we have to find it. And like, I have no idea what that is. And she ended up reaching out to me and said, you obviously like what you're hearing. Do you want to pitch me to podcasts?
Oh.
And that was how it began. Up until then, so September 2018 is when I learned how to listen to a podcast.
Wait. What do you mean you learned how to listen?
I didn't know that the purple button on my phone was for podcasts. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can laugh. It's fine. There are a lot of people that still don't know.
No, I'm there with you. I'm so not into technology. Like before I started my own podcast, I think I may have listened to 5 episodes of a podcast. So
that's okay.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So that's how my journey into podcasting began. I started pitching her. And then as she saw that I'm more than, kind of an assistant type of thing, she started having me produce the shows. And I did more and more within her business. And then it just trickled down to, more people and more podcasts. And then along the way, I decided what I liked and what I didn't like to do. And, what allowed me to use my skills, get paid more and not spend more time on it. And it's ended up into podcast pitching, PR, traditional PR, and then some producing and my own show.
Wow. That's amazing. So, okay, wait. You got laid off, you started listening to podcasts, started listening to this life coach, and then she wants to work with you. What was the time frame like between, like dabbling with working with her to actually getting a full-fledged, this is what I do business up and running?
We started working together in November, December of 2018.
Mhm.
And by January, I had already 3 clients that I was pitching. So it wasn't full-time yet though, because, I find that when you go into the online space, you don't know how to price yourself. And
Yeah.
it is a free for all of, I have no idea what to charge. And this person charges $5 an hour and this person charges 500. And podcast pitching, it still is relatively new. You're seeing a lot more people doing it. But 2 years ago, there weren't many people doing it. It was a handful. So yeah, I had some clients coming in because they liked the low price at the time. And, since then I've built relationships, and I call myself the podcast matchmaker because it's all about the relationships you build with your clients and with hosts. And, that goes into the PR realm as well, which is why I went, oh, if I'm doing this on podcasts, I can totally do this with media relations. And I've done it and become successful with it. And it's all because I can build relationships that are genuine and authentic, not just hey, I know you.
Right.
Let's hook up.
Right.
There's much more to it.
Right. That's an interesting thing to look at because, right, you went from one area of job and career into this PR space. And I think some people do that in their lifetime where they change careers completely, but they feel sort of like they don't have the skill set, or, why would somebody listen to them in this space when their background doesn't fit that space? Did you struggle with that at all when you were going into the PR space?
A little bit, but in the back of my head, I always remembered that, aviation, I didn't know anything about corporate jets when I went into that either. And it was all relationship based. I worked for 2 of the top corporate aviation companies during my career, and it was me knowing who my clients are you know, knowing their birthdays, knowing who their spouse was, knowing what was going on within their lives and their companies that kept them coming back to me because I sold jet fuels. That's what I did in corporate aviation. And, you know, it's just like you going and taking your car. You can go to Chevron, you can go across the street to Shell. But, you know, what's that relationship? Do you have a card that's giving you something more? Well, just think if you're higher level, you're dealing with a person and not just a card. And, you know, if you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I can save 5 cents over here. What can you do for me? Oh, I can get you 5 cents. Like, that's no big deal, especially when we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars of fuel. But it's about having that relationship. And that was really what my career was about before. And that's what's continued to be about now.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I think the skill set for either one can always be learned. You know, you can learn your phonetic alphabet, you can learn types of jets, you can figure out what type of fuel goes into what. But it's being able to have that personality and that just nurturing sort of personality to really get to know people that's going to make you successful. And I think that applies to most jobs.
Right. What would you say to somebody that's sitting there thinking like, well, Michelle, I'm an introvert. I can't talk to people. How do I build relationships with that type of personality that I have?
Well, you know, I think we're all people at some point. We do like to have interaction as humans. We crave it. And the other thing to remember is nowadays everything's online. So, like the majority of my work today is all email. It's engaging on Twitter, on Instagram. I don't get to talk to people very often. I just don't unless I'm interviewing them or being interviewed. It's all behind a screen. You know, before early on, I was up front and, you know, there's Michael Jordan coming off a plane, you know, don't pee your pants. You know, that would be the extrovert. You have to put yourself out there. But even if you're an introvert, it doesn't matter because you're not allowed to be starstruck anyway. So I would say look at what it's actually going to take because a relationship, you don't have to be an extrovert or an introvert. You just have to be authentic and want to get to know the person.
I like that. I like that. Cool. So now let's see. Podcasting, you found that little purple button.
I did.
What drew you in to want to stay in that space?
I love that podcasts really are accessible by anyone,
Mm,
whether it's the listener or the host. You know, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to put a podcast out there.
mhm,
If you want it pristine and crisp and, you know, maybe you want to pay for an editor, that's going to be what you're paying for in your host. And the host isn't going to be, it's going to be less than $20 a month to host it. Um, so I love that truly anyone that wants to have a podcast can have one.
right.
And it was the realization of what podcasts can do for other people. You can be educated, you can be entertained. There is something on every subject. My kids have listened to podcasts. You know, there's something for every age range, every person, every topic. It's literally like the encyclopedias we used to have as little kids, where you can have everything at your fingertips and you can listen to it and you get to know people and, you know, have that person in your ear. It's accessible any time of day or night. It's just a great platform. And I also recognized it as something where people can share their message and their story. And, you know, if you're going through something in your life, you might not want to talk about it. You might wonder, you know, am I all alone and nobody else is going through this? And then you put your headphones on and you start listening to podcasts and you hear someone who's going through exactly what you are and they've come out on the other side and they have their tips and their tools to offer. And you're literally changing a life by being on a podcast. That's how I feel. I feel that podcasts are life changing
Mm,
and that we all have a message, we all have a story. And if one person is listening and it resonates with them, then you've just changed a life. And there's truly nothing more in this world, I think, that you need to do if you can do that.
yeah. And that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast was because I felt alone in corporate. Like I didn't feel like there was anyone I could look to that was wanting to do something else outside of their degree or their title. And so I wanted to create this platform to highlight women that have made career changes, and highlight women in entrepreneurial roles that are doing things that are out of the box. So I completely agree with being able to share stories and just change people's lives with the podcast. So I love that. Now, I have a follow-up question for that though. When
Bring
you
it.
talk about sharing your story, there's two sides of the podcast. You can be the host, or you can be the guest. Do you think there's a better way of sharing your story, or how do you decide which one's best for you?
I've actually done a webinar on this, on whether you should host it or you should be a guest. And, I think both ways are the right way.
Okay.
I have clients who have podcasts. I have clients who only want to guest on podcasts. And, there's a time commitment involved when you host one. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest differences is when you're a guest, you show up like I am, we chat for an hour, I wash my hands and I'm done. If you're a host, you've had to find out who I am, do your research, get ready, record. Now you have to edit it. You got to do show notes. You got to do social media. And you have all of these other things that go into it, at least 4 hours more of work to put it out there. But at the same time, it's yours. This is a piece and a platform that is completely yours. I've had clients who say, I'm doing this for my child so that when my child grows up, they can hear what I was thinking, what I was going through at certain times in my life, and it's recorded forever. And that's a big deal too, because, now in this digital age, my husband and I were just talking about this morning because I got an email from Costco that their photography centers in Costco are going away. And I went, well, there go my Christmas cards. They'll ship it to you, but you can't just go in and get it done. And my husband said, everything we have, we used to print all of our pictures. I have scrapbooks that I made when my stepkids were younger. They're now, 22 and 18, but my little ones, we don't really print books.
Yeah.
Print pictures. So I think to have something that is there forever is a wonderful gift that you can give yourself and you can give your family.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Both ways are just as good, guesting and hosting. Yes, hosting, for those that are considering podcasts, hosting is a lot of work. It's a lot of behind the scenes that you may not see, but it's for me, I find it just so enjoyable because I just like sharing people's stories. So
it's a great way to get to know people you wouldn't otherwise also.
Yeah.
I've met incredible people, mostly women. I've had some men on my show too, but it's mostly been women, and women that I probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to talk to before. And, it evolves into bigger things.
Yeah.
I had one guest who I was just excited to have her on and chat. And after we stopped recording, she was like, so what projects do you have coming up? And I told her about a course I was going to launch. And she goes, stop. I want to launch the same thing, but I want to do this other version. Let's do it together. And it turned into a collaboration. And it never would have happened if we hadn't done an interview together.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be huge for your business. I think if you have a podcast of your own, it's a great way to promote your business.
Yeah.
Guesting on other podcasts is a great way to promote your podcast and your business. And, it's really about showing up and being that thought leader and expert that we all want to be known as. Mm-hmm. And podcasts are just a great platform to do that.
Yeah. And it takes your message, geographically everywhere.
Yes.
Never would have thought. So my podcast started last April. I never would have thought I would have people from all different continents on my podcast.
Oh, I know. I was just looking at my charts on Chartable and I'm like, do you know that last week I was in the top 100 in Singapore and the Netherlands, I think it was. My husband's like, who's listening to you there? I'm like, I don't know, but they are.
Wait, what's Chartable?
Oh, chartable.com is a free website where you plug in any podcast, really. So I do it for myself. I do it for clients. And it tracks when you get a new review, it'll send you an alert. When you hit the charts, it'll send you I get a weekly update. And you can go back and see when was the last time you charted in a certain category. It goes by country. It gives you the date. It's awesome. And it's free.
What?
Yeah, you should be on there.
I just learned something new. So okay. So in addition to having like your podcast sitting on like Libsyn or something like that, or Apple or whatever, you also just
Mhm.
plug it into that as well.
You don't have to plug it in. It pulls automatically from Apple. It pulls all of them. So
Nice.
you really just set up your own email and say which ones you want it to send you updates on.
Nice. Okay. You know what I'm doing right after we finish recording? I'm going to
Yes.
Chartable.
Check your stats and it'll give you whatever's been, before too.
Okay. Nice. Okay, cool. Now I want to go back. I'm sorry to throw us off tangent. That just I had never
I love it. I love it. Left, right, take the fork in the
exactly,
road.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. When you were talking about like hosting versus, guesting on a podcast,
Mhm.
do you have any suggestions on um, interviewing or just doing your own solo show? Or can you do both? Are there any rules?
There are no rules. That's the beauty. The podcast is yours. When I started mine, I initially thought that it was just going to be solo episodes. And then I started bringing on some people, and I'm like, oh, I love interviewing more than I love a solo episode, but I'll still go and share and I'll do solos, in between. But I found I get to be selfish in a way. So I have guests that'll come on, they all talk about their career pivots because I have not had anyone come on who's like, yes, this is what I've done all my
Right.
life. It's the same. Everyone has changed somehow, even if they went from corporate to working for themselves and still the same industry,
Mhm.
they've had that change. And so they all come on, talk about that, but then they offer up their best tips or tools that are related to what they're doing now. And often I'll put myself on the hot seat and just say, hey, what is it that you think about when I did this? Or this is what I'm doing right now. What are your thoughts around that? And I'll get like free coaching out of it. So I'm a little selfish on that end.
Hmm. I might
And
steal that for later in this episode, Michelle.
go for it. And then the other thing is I'm a big book reader. I love reading, and I've gotten to have some amazing authors on the show. Um, whether it's their book's already been released or it's coming up. Right now I'm on my second book that has not been released yet. And I've got copies that I'm reading where I've never seen it before. Like the table of contents, I'll say page 0 because it's not done. It
Oh.
says there's like letters on everything. Do not let the public see. This is not released. I'm like, this is so cool. It's like top secret stuff. You get to read it. And then I'm interviewing the authors about it. And for me, that's a big deal because I love to be paid to do what you love to do is
Mhm.
amazing. I get to have my hands on these books that I would anyway, but I get to read them first, interviewing people that I want to, pitching people. It's a gift to be able to do this and get paid for it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah, I don't know. Finding podcasting, like I say, was accidental for me. And I never thought I would have loved it as much as I do. And I'm just grateful to have all the amazing women come on the show that I do because y'all rock. Y'all make me look good.
You are too sweet.
So when it comes to, okay, let's say you've done the podcast and you posted it on Libsyn, but nothing's happening. What are your suggestions, or do you have any suggestions
Oh
on
boy, do I wrote a course on it. It is
where are
called
these courses, Michelle? Are they on
you
your
can
website?
find them on my website. Yeah.
Okay, shout out your website
Um,
really quickly just so they can get
the
it.
mslcollective.com.
Okay.
And I've done a podcast launch course. That one I did in collaboration with Ali Casaza. She's a top 100. She's all about the moms. She's in the mom space with decluttering, minimalist stuff. And then I did a course called Repurpose Your Podcast. And it's 16 different ways to take one episode and make it content for other platforms.
Did you say 16? Like
16,
1/6?
1/6.
Okay.
And now that we have Clubhouse, I need to update it so we can make it 17. But
Oh.
it's so you have, as you create this one episode, you have this recording and you put it up on Libsyn. But if you write show notes, and I recommend blog style show notes for SEO purposes,
Mm.
you put that on your website because podcasts are you can search for them, on Apple, but you're not going to go Google podcast pitching. The episode's probably not going to come up unless you have show notes.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got traffic driving to your website. You can also create graphics for social media to drive more traffic. So Instagram, your Instagram stories, you can create reels, you can create guides now. So you can gear to, drive people towards, you have a guide on all of your entrepreneur episodes. You have a guide on all of your career episodes. You can have different guides within Instagram on your account for that. Yes. I see a hand up.
Okay, I'm so not an IG person, like I'm on it, but you said guides. I've heard of reels. I've seen stories.
Mhm.
I haven't seen guides. I
They
could.
recently started guides. It was just before Christmas
Ah,
because it was a big deal for people who had like Etsy shops or whatever products that they could then put them into categories and have them showcased there.
mm,
So in the course, I actually give you all of my courses. I'm a big believer in give you everything I can. So there's screenshots of things and step by step. I'm very type A. So it's not like go to Instagram. It's like, no, go to Instagram, log on, go to this icon. So that's, one way. Twitter, you can actually, when you upload to Libsyn,
mm,
there's a social tab. I don't know if you've seen this. You can type in your Twitter, whatever you're going to tweet for that episode, and it automatically, when the episode goes live, tweets it out.
mm.
So you don't have to do it. Your YouTube, you obviously are putting this on YouTube, but for those people who don't want to do a video, YouTube, you can connect to your Libsyn account and they will automatically upload it when it goes live and just use your cover art as the video.
Hmm.
And it will also pull your show notes. So if you put either a full transcript or you put your show notes, then that'll go in as your description on YouTube.
I'm learning so much.
Then there's Pinterest. You have to be on Pinterest
I'm not on Pinterest. Why do we have to be on Pinterest, Michelle?
because Pinterest is not just for DIYers and recipes anymore. People are looking at it for career advice, marketing advice, business advice. Yes, it's big. I get over 200,000 views a month on my Pinterest.
On Pinterest?
On
Are you just
Pinterest.
posting like an image of your recipe?
I do an image. I do two, one is a square, so that'll fit on my Instagram and my Facebook, and then I do a rectangular one for my Instagram stories that I repurpose to my Pinterest. And then I just throw it up with a blurb. And you can automatically connect Pinterest to your Instagram. So you can throw I'm schooling you now, huh?
I have so much homework. Oh my gosh.
This is how you can grow the podcast without using money. It's simply repurposing your content. And honestly, you can take an episode and spread it out because of all the quotes that you have.
Yeah.
If you're going through and pulling quotes from it, then you can use those as graphics to
Yeah.
use any old time. And, although we as the creators think that we're repeating ourselves, not everybody's listening.
Mhm.
So, and I'm the queen of this, and yet at the same time, I forget to do it myself.
We're always our worst client. Like,
Yeah. It was only recently that I'm going, we should revisit episode 1.
yeah.
And which was my career switch. And I talk about this all the time. And yet I had people go, I had no idea you were in aviation. I'm like, what?
Where were you?
Where have you been? Have you looked at my website? Like, it's there. It's on the podcast. It's everywhere. So, repeat yourself, go back to other episodes. It's been great. I actually recently took, so I'm on episode 67 released this week, and I went through every episode because I have show notes from them and pulled my own quotes.
Mm.
And I'm making quote graphics. Usually within my Instagram feed, I'll have quotes, inspirational, motivational
Right.
from other people. They are now only from me.
Okay.
I'm quoting myself. So it's great to showcase who you are, but it's also stuff that you don't have to make up because you already have the content.
Right. Okay. Wait. Because another question popped into my head. So from the podcast, do you have a transcription service where you can transcribe the audio into text?
Yeah, Otter. It's $8 a month if you do the annual thing.
Y'all, are y'all getting all these tips? Because I'm like,
I don't want to say that I'm cheap, but I am frugal. Where I can save money, I will save money.
okay, I love that. So okay, love it. Now I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to go
and
back and look at Lisbon versus because there's so many things out there. Lisbon, there's Buzzsprout, there's
I'm a Libsyn fan through and through. I don't even look at the other ones. If you're just starting a podcast, if you use the code LIFE, LIFE, as in My Simplified Life,
mhm.
you get the rest of the current month and the following month for free.
Mm,
I told you I was a fan.
I expect chocolates in the mail for all these tips that she's giving you. Okay.
But
Now,
then, other places like medium.com, you can post, I think it's 3 or 4 of your own blog things every
mm,
month. And you can literally put in the website link to your own and it'll just pull it. So
yeah.
easy things that don't take a lot of time that you can do or you can have someone else do because they are truly so simple.
Homework. Homework. Thank you, Michelle.
My pleasure.
Now, you brought up one thing, and I'm glad you brought it up because I was thinking about it, but I wasn't sure if it could be something we talk about. But you mentioned Clubhouse
Hmm.
and you mentioned repurposing your podcast on Clubhouse.
Hmm.
How is that possible?
There's a couple different things that you could do. So, and I actually just recorded an interview with someone this week about all Clubhouse things.
Huh.
And, one way we thought about how can you record an episode on Clubhouse? Like, what would that sound like?
Mhm.
And the audio might not be great because you have different people. But if you're a coach, you could offer hot seat sessions
Oh,
that you then turn into a actual podcast episode. You can say that, my podcast comes out every Tuesday. So every Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to go on to Clubhouse and I'm going to stand up there and talk about what the show's about
mhm.
and drive traffic that way. So there's different ways that you can repurpose it by, I'm just going to go on and talk about it just as you would on IGTV or you're doing an IG live, where you're talking about, I'm just going to take 5 minutes and here it is. And it's funny that on Clubhouse, it's like those 5-10 minutes turn into an hour. I'm not sure people are talking on Clubhouse to the point where I'm going, I've got to use that leave quietly button because I have things to do.
They do turn into longer sessions. I had one that was 90 minutes, it turned into 2 hours. Yeah.
The woman I was interviewing, she was moderating one that was supposed to be an hour and a half. It went to 2. At 2, she's like, I got to bail out. It lasted 4 hours.
Oh my gosh, what were they talking about?
Apparently, people came in and out and then would ask the same questions that someone 3 hours ago would answer, but
Mm,
they'd still answer because it's not recorded.
right.
So that's one thing that you will not see Clubhouse taking over podcasts because I've seen that come up a few times of, oh, is Clubhouse the new podcast platform? No, it's not. They don't record anything. So no, it's not. It's more like a conference setting, or I like to call it a TED Talk, but you're bringing people up on stage with you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation of it, actually. Yeah. And now, you talked about like doing the 5 minute, this is what my podcast was about. And I never thought about something like that because I don't know. I'm sometimes like the over analyzer. So I'm like, it has to be an hour. It has to be like this in Clubhouse. And you bring a good point. It can just be short and sweet as a promotional piece.
Yeah, and I'm one of those that if I'm going to be on camera, I'm going to go show up, and do something, then I need to do my hair, I need to take a shower. And this year I finally let it all go. I'm like, whatever. I've done lives from my pool because the kids wanted to, go swimming and I'm like, well, I'll just hop on now. And yes, I'm in a bathing suit. My hair's up in a bun and who cares? And this is real life,
Right.
and it's just simply showing up. Too often we're looking at things like Instagram and everything looks perfect, and in reality it's not. So
Mm,
just show up as you are and be authentic and be yourself, and people will appreciate that.
yeah. Do you think that's what makes shows stand out, like amongst the sea of podcasters? Is just the person that's really authentic is really what kind of makes them blow up, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. And I think that's also what's going to drive business to you too. People are listening to you, you're in their ear. And oftentimes it takes away that whole vetting process of, do I want to work with Michelle? I don't know. I've never talked to her. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I've just listened to her 67 times. Yeah, she's who I want in my corner. There's that. People get to know you. And it's funny because it's something that I'm kind of grappling with. Like I don't want to call it the fangirl, but there have been people where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you. Like, "Ee," or, and now I'm getting this. And I still am like, wait, what? I had someone in my DMs over the weekend go, you've changed my life. And I
Oh
went,
my gosh.
what are you talking about? How have I'm like, I'm not doing anything special at all. I talk into a microphone, I interview people, I'm not sure how. Thank you, because I don't know what to say. I truly that I'm having to grab it's on my things to talk about with my therapist next week because I'm like, I don't get it.
It's just you. It's just you being you and bringing those stories and just letting people know they aren't alone, like you said earlier. Like,
Well, and that's the whole point of podcasts to me too. So to know that I'm doing what I'm preaching
yeah,
is, that's powerful.
yeah, yeah. Okay. One last question specifically about podcasting. Like, if you want to get started in your mind, people, well, let me back up. People think that to start a podcast, you need all this material. If you could name like the top three things you need from like technology or microphone type stuff, what would the top three things be for somebody just starting out?
I love my Yeti. Um,
Is that a
it's
Yeti?
it is. It's so pretty.
Oh, I like that Yeti. I have the blue, the snowball.
They're hard to come by, I think, these days because
Mhm.
everybody bought them during COVID, but I do love my Yeti, and if you get a Yeti, here's my other tip, up and down. It's
Mm,
not like a regular microphone. It's actually at the on the sides, not at the
wow.
top.
Okay.
So, that's one hint if somebody gets a Yeti.
And is that
Um,
a pop? What is the thing? The popper?
a
The
pop filter.
There you go.
Yeah, this is like $5.
Okay.
Some of them actually come with it. I forget what it is I ordered, but like some will come with like the boom and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, it's cheap.
Okay.
I have a Mac, so it comes with GarageBand, and that's really all you need.
Mm.
For interviews, free, you can use Zencaster. I love it. They now have a video version too, and it uses up less bandwidth than Zoom does.
Okay.
So Zencaster is free. That's what makes it awesome. It uploads automatically to your Dropbox, but if there's a technical issue, you can still get it on your computer.
Okay.
That's a big deal because I have sat there and went, oh, where did it go?
Right.
It's gone. It's on my computer. It's somewhere on there. So those ones for sure. You need a host. So I would say Libsyn. I just do. I think it's easy to use, easy peasy. Your closet is fine. I'm in my closet. It's got the best sound. And it's funny because when COVID hit, you had some really big names of podcasters who go into studios and then they had to record from home
Uh-huh.
and it was horrible. They didn't know what they're doing. I'm like, just go to your closet.
Yeah.
I've
You
had
know what I mean?
clients, they've had to go to they're in hotel rooms or whatever. They just go under a blanket and record under a blanket
There you go.
to help absorb the sound. So you really don't need something massive. If you don't have a Mac, you can record on things like Anchor. Um, but I found that a lot of my clients, myself, we all have Macs. So we use GarageBand for solos, for the intros, and then Zencaster for our interviews. And you can't beat free. So
Right.
um, those would be the basics, really. You'll have to do your cover art. So I use Canva. They've got a free version of that too. I
Yes.
love Canva too. I paid for it because I'm like $10 is nothing. But they do have free, and
Mhm.
free is always good. So you can really start out on the cheap, and you don't need to start out with, $120 microphone. You can use your earbuds, your AirPods, whatever it is to start, and then go from there too.
Yeah.
The key is just to start.
Exactly. Exactly. Get over the fear of it. Get over all the what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to sound like, and just do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, you mentioned you are a wife, you have kids, you're podcasting yourself, you're PR agent. You're like Superwoman, right? Doing all
No,
these
I'm
things.
just organized.
How do you stay organized? Like, what's your organization process like?
For all client work, I use Trello. Every client, including myself, I have a Trello board. My podcast has a Trello board. I use Trello. Free. Again, free. Uh, I'm not cheap, I'm frugal.
I didn't try Trello. I tried Asana, didn't like that, and so I went to
Yeah.
ClickUp, which also has boards. So
Okay.
that's my go-to.
Yeah, I love my Trello board, and you can add people to it, which is great. My editor's on there, so I will alert him, do this. It's
Uh-huh.
great when you've got clients, they can see what you're doing, and it's all, I'm very like, oh, an email came in, I need to put it over in Trello. So everything's in real time. We've got our Apple family calendar on the phones, my husband and I. That's really how we keep organized, is really communication.
Mhm.
When's your call? Here's my call. Because our son just started kindergarten in the
Aw.
fall. So he's our distance learner. He has his office, air quotes, that he calls it.
Mhm.
And, he's on the iPad for half the day. Then it's distance learning, independent study for the other half. And then we've got a 4-year-old. So she's my sidekick. Sometimes she'll sneak in the closet and listen to the podcasts. She has to be quiet, but she will listen.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I do a menu plan for dinner. Otherwise, because I can't get at 4 o'clock, I'll be like, what am I making? Oh, I have nothing. What am I going to do? So I plan out a week in advance.
Nice. Yeah. I can't, well, I take that back. I can do 3 days in advance. Let me tell you what happens. So I'll plan out and I will cook, like I bulk cook, and I think I will have food left over. And at that moment, that's when my husband eats it all. And so I'm all messed up. And if I don't do it, then he's like, well, what's for dinner? So I feel like I'm just
See,
all
I've
over the
got my
place
husband
with
trained. He will ask, oh, can I eat this?
that.
Or is this meant for dinner?
I like it. I like it. But yeah, planning, you sound like you have it all kind of organized and then figured out, because I think it takes that when you have all these different hats that you're wearing.
Yeah, it's all trial and error. And, as I've gotten to grow in my business, I've gotten really been able to, block days off my calendar. And that's been a big thing of setting boundaries and
Mm,
saying, you know what, I'm not going to take a phone call on a Monday or Friday, period. You want to talk to me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you can email me. I'm around.
mhm.
But to really put those boundaries in place has helped my sanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been key.
Yeah. And the same thing for me, when it comes to the podcast itself, I do my recordings on Thursday or Saturday. And I have to keep it that way. If people want to change dates and everything, I'm like, no, I only do it on these 2 days. That way I only have to get dressed
Right.
and makeup and hair done.
And as a host, you can do that. If you're a guest, I don't recommend dictating which days.
Yes.
As a host, yes, you can
Yes.
dictate that.
Yes, exactly. No. Love it. Awesome. Well, any last thoughts you could share, or inspiration for someone that's looking to like get into this space of podcasting?
Just do it. Try it and do it. I hear from a lot of people that fear, I don't know what to say, or should I, or don't I talk about it? And I say just start, hit record and start. Throw your ideas all down. That's why I love my Trello board, is if I have an idea of an episode I want to do or a guest I'd like to have on, I will go create a card in Trello. So it's there and I can just move it along when it's booked. But, just throw out everything you could think of, because oftentimes you'll think of something that, I might have a topic and I'm like, well, I don't know if that is good enough or it should be. Well, you'll forget about it if you don't write it down. So just do it. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If people don't want to listen, they're not your people. It's okay. But then imagine the people who find you because of your podcast and all of those new connections you can make. So I say just do it. Just start and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not your tribe. They're not your group, your clique,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it. And by not doing it, think about the people that are missing out on your story and that won't get help, like that woman that DM Michelle.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. Awesome, Michelle. Well, my dear, we have gotten through the heavy lifting of the show. And now we go to the phase 2 that everyone goes through, which is the Fab 4. Are you ready?
I hope so.
No pressure. It's just whatever comes to the top of your mind. You guys know we always do this at the end of the show. So here we go. Michelle, what's the strangest food you've ever eaten?
I want to say quail egg.
Okay.
Sushi, they do that sometimes.
No, I was trying to think if I ever have had a quail egg. I don't think I have.
I think it was a quail egg in a shot glass.
Okay. I like that. Interesting.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Raw, not like a cooked quail egg, like a raw.
Oh, it was raw?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry.
It was yellow. Gross. Yeah. See? Weird, strange. There you go.
All right. Next one. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
There's a couple superpowers I'd like to have. One, I'd like to be an undercover cop superpower so I could just pull people over when they do bad things.
Okay.
I want that superpower. I would love to have the ability to be a fly on the wall, to actually listen on certain things and to know what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Love it. Cool. Next one. If you had to pick a song to represent your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? And I answered this for a newsletter because I was writing my Mom's Club newsletter last year. And I had this, like, what was your theme song? And I want to say I picked like a Demi Lovato song. Was it Confidence? That might have been it.
Okay. We'll go with Confidence.
Sure.
You think?
Sure.
It's going to be added to the list.
That's fine. If I think of something afterwards, I'll just tell you and we can pretend I said it.
Yes, exactly. And the last one is just to finish the statement. I am
a mom, a wife, a successful business owner. I could go on. Because I use the 5-minute journal. So I have to actually write every single day what I am.
Oh,
I am yes. And every day I put, I am worthy and capable of success. And I am a loving and patient wife and mom. Those are my 2 daily I am statements.
Aww. And I'll add one. I think you're amazing.
Oh, you are too sweet. Thank you. This has been so much fun.
Yes, I cannot believe our time is up. It always goes so quickly, but
it does. Yeah. And I told my husband, I'm like, I won't be an hour. Don't worry about it.
I told you I talk a lot. I really did try. I tried.
No, you're perfect. Because I told you we communicate. What do you have? What do I have? I go, I got a 1:00 podcast interview, but you need to get him on his reading group at 1:25. He's got a 2:00. I'm like, okay, we can make this work.
Yes.
Yep. Timers.
Love it. Michelle, if people want to stay connected with you or they want to work with you and use your skills, how can they find you?
I'm at themslcollective.com, and you can also reach me on Instagram. It's Michelle Glogovac. I'm on Facebook, the MSL Collective, and you can listen to the podcast, My Simplified Life. Every Tuesday, a new episode comes out.
Love it. Love it. And if you are in need of a podcast PR person, I would recommend Michelle. She recommended.
Thank you.
So I think she does a great job at that. So yeah, again, Michelle, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys for listening as always. We're happy to have you. And if you haven't found us on other platforms, we're on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. So we're trying to blow up a little bit, but we need your help. So be sure to subscribe and share and join us next time for our next conversation. Until then, bye guys.